Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom in which we speak with small cap executives about recent important press releases. With us today, I'm happy to have again Bernard Tourillon. He's chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ. For those of you who are new to the story, pay attention. HPQ is planning on becoming a vertically integrated solar-grade silicon metal producer. They're developing a disruptive, one-step, high-purity and solar-grade silicon metal manufacturing process, and we're going to talk about that in a second. This process is going to reduce capital costs and operating costs by as much as 90%, creating cost advantages never before seen in the industry. And today, we're here to talk about the company's big press release today. I'm going to read the headline: the PureVap pilot plant testing starting early, with commissioning of HPQ's 1/250th scale pilot equipment. Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, George.
Big news today, huh? Aren't you looking confident sitting pretty?
Well, it's a big news, but it was within the process. It's just we've now gotten to the point where the machine. I've been advised by Pyro that the machine is going to be ready to be operational, and that's the key point. And I couldn't wait for that machine to arrive.
So let's talk about that. You're moving from the Gen 1 to the Gen 2 of your PureVap, QRR, quartz reduction reactor. What's going to be the biggest advantage of this move?
Well, this one, the Gen 2 is really a scale model of the Gen 3, which is a real pilot plant. So what people have had to realize is when we decided to order the Gen 3 machine, okay, we were actually doing a massive scaling up of a scale of over 1,200% bigger. Once we reach maximum capacity of the Gen 1 to be able to produce material because of the way it was designed, if it's normal for a lab scale machine, and we decided, and the guys at Pyro had finished the plan for the Gen 3, they realized that, oh, we can make in-between machine, which is called the Gen 2, and that one will start to act exactly like the Gen 3 machine, but on a scale model. Now that is phenomenally important because that means that we're finally getting continuous operation, which is the key point. And we'll be able to tap material. It means we'll start to be able to control crystallization, all those issues. So inside of me, I am very, very excited, but it's the right step. Well, instead of doing everything on a massive scale, which what we were originally planning, we can now start to do a lot of the testing. Basically, 99% of the testing we're going to do with big machine, we'll do it with a small one. There's no way for us to come up with financial numbers on a lab scale machine. But on this machine, we can start to come up. They'll be in the range of PEA type data, plus or minus 50%, but it'll increase the credibility of everything we issue. So that's why I'm very excited about it.
How much testing, as far as a time period, are you going to do on the Gen 2 before you move to Gen 3? So I see in the press release that Gen 2 is expected to be operational the first couple of weeks of October. How much time are your investors going to have to see results coming out of the Gen 2?
Well, coming out of the Gen 2 will come out. Well, we're as in the press release, there's something with people. We're still having a bottleneck with testing material. Right now, it takes us 5 weeks to get material back and forth, and in 5 to 6 weeks, and we really don't control that. That's one of the reasons why having bigger sample will allow us to use multiple ways of doing it. That's been our biggest bottleneck to deal with. It's not the result on everything else. It's just the feed time. Now that we'll be doing big enough material, And since we are aiming to be in the solar business, purity, contrary to popular belief and contrary to statements I've made in the past, I just came back from a solar show, purity is not that relevant. What is relevant is the electrical characteristic of the silicon we produce. And with big enough sample, we can start to work with that aspect. And then calculating the electrical conductivity is a very simple, straightforward process that Pyro can do. And then once we've validate everything, then we can send to outside laboratories. So it's going to help the looping of what we're doing, having more material to work on.
So here's something I picked up in the press release, and I'm sure everyone at home did. So I'm going to read a couple of these. It's the first time I'm really seeing these. These are excerpts. One, our next key milestone is to produce quantities of solar grade silicon and sending material to industry participants. I saw that. Further down, producing larger SI samples for testing by potential purchasers. Mm-hmm. And then further down that, so produce enough material to send samples to solar industry participants again. So Bernard, it seems like after a brief quiet period, the PureVat process and the company now appear to be moving very quickly again. In fact, accelerating. Am I reading too much into this, or this seems like a lot of confidence here that you're going to be ready to start sending material to buyers in the industry?
It's just that we've been advancing in a meticulous and systematic way. We said to the market on May 4th that we were starting a new testing program to reach this, and this is what we're accomplishing now. So it's going to look as if we speed it up, but that's the only thing it's going to do. It's going to look, it's like, unfortunately, when you're building a pilot plant, it's like when you're building a mine, it's about as exciting as looking as paint drying. But that's what it is. It's important. It's very, very, it's a key step. But there are some points that are, very boring. Like writing the French press release, I had to reread the press release of other companies. And I was scratching my head how they came up with inventing press release to tell them what they were doing. That's not what we chose to do. We chose to wait until we have a significant event. That doesn't mean that we're not working and advancing. That doesn't mean I'm not in discussion with people in the silicon industry, in the solar industries and everything else. That doesn't mean that my knowledge of what I knew 2 years ago is completely not the same what it is today. Like I've discovered, interestingly, if you look about the business case that we have, we were a quartz exploration company. Quartz is the raw ingredient to make solar cell material, right? People have to realize that the quartz rough market is about a $300 to $500 million a year business market. Right? That is then transformed into silicon metal, which is a $5.5 to $6 billion a year business. Okay? Only 15% to 20% of the material made by those people can then be used in the solar industry. That's another $5 billion a year business. So basically, all the way when you make solar grade silicon metal, that's a $5 billion a year business. Well, the guys that buy you that material and transform it into solar cell, which are not that technically challenging steps, okay, that becomes a $35 billion a year business.
First time we're hearing that number.
Well, it's the first time first time I've learned about this when I went to Vegas. And it's a massive market. And there's a lot of constraint about the industries which are not publicly known, which are part of research that we've done and understanding this. And as a public company, we can only publish them once we can validate all the information.
Right. Which is what this step is going to help you do, correct?
Right, exactly. Right. If we have delineated resources, okay, the only price we can put is the same price that Road Resource put into it, for what, $50 a ton? Okay. Now we're going to be in a part where we will be able to send our samples to third-party independent buyers, going to say, I'll pay X, Y, Z for this. Okay. Then we can use it to do our PEA. There's also other things we discovered. We are really the only process in the world that can produce in one step 3N material. That's really key. There's a very significant and big market for that we did not fully understand when we started, but we had an inkling it was there. This being said, the bigger market is really the solar $35 billion a year market. In our presentation, I do mention that we would like to get in that division and start moving forward. We are looking at how we can attain that goal as we reach every one of our goals in parallel. So what we're doing with this step is two things. We're restarting the work of producing solar grade material with the PureVap, but at the same time, we're validating the economics of our process. And we're reducing the risk, because when the Gen 3 is going to be operational, Gen 2 will have been operational, so it's only a 1/250th scaling up.
And that's the question. That's the question I had for you, because it seems like you and Peter Pascali keep using that term, de-risking. So for people who haven't been paying a lot of attention to that over this period, or people that are new, why are you both using? What's the importance of the de-risking discussion that you guys keep talking about?
Well, we're building something new that is revolutionary. All right, we've done it at lab scale to where everybody has problems. Lab scale to commercial scale. All right, that's the biggest hurdle. Whatever company out there, that's the biggest key. That's the biggest hurdle. If you can find ways to reduce the risk to reach that goal within the entire same budget, within the same time frame, you're going to be a winner at the end, because that Gen 2 machine will also be there when there's a Gen 3 problem. Maybe there'll be one of these times there'll be a problem with the Gen 3 system that they can duplicate with a Gen 2 and find a solution to it. So the Gen 2 is literally nothing else than a smaller scale copy of the bigger one. So that basically means that what we had originally planned to do in 2018, okay,
which is still on track.
It's still going to be done in 2018. We're now starting in 2017. So we've basically switched around our schedule because of that new machine, because we can now bring forward more testing. And that's really all what it is. That's what's called de-risking. Basically is we're testing the principle of what it is. We reached the maximum that we could do with the Gen 1. For multiple of operational reasons and everything else. It'll come out in the report being prepared by PowerGenesis once we have all the data. But that's really all what it is. Gen 1 at a certain level of capacity it could reach. We knew we would be resolving this with the Gen 3, but now with the Gen 2, we can start testing. It's pretty simple, just simple, straightforward.
And last question is this, and I'm going to read a quote from Peter Pascali where he says in the press release, "Given the results to date, we are more confident than ever before that we will have a commercial success." Clearly, the investment community expects the CEO of HPQ Silicon to be confident in success. But what does it mean to you and to everybody else to have Peter Pascali, who I've coined as Canada's next Elon Musk, who has already deployed very successful commercial applications with the U.S. aircraft carriers, DARPA, and even 3D powders now that are going out to unnamed global conglomerates? What does it mean to you to be able to have that kind of third-party validation from someone like Peter's to the fact that you're going to have commercial success according to him?
That's very important. Since the beginning, that's been our goal of Peter and I in this regard. What's becoming clear to Peter and I in this regard is that it's actually bigger than we thought. We wrote many times over, and Peter wrote this on repetitive scale, is that there's a good chance that the PureVap process will become the gold standard for making silicon metal and everything else. And that's really, the more we look at the data, both of us, we come up to that conclusion. And the good part is he has the engineers that back him. I look at the market, I look at the situation, when he makes that comments, because he's had those discussions with the engineering team and everything else. And he's been working with them, and they've reached every one of those goals. But since the beginning, our association with PyroGenesis was based on this. They would allow us not to do the try not to repeat the mistakes of other junior exploration companies that said they want to go technology. Okay, let's be realistic. We're not a technology company. We're becoming one. We're building the assets to be one. But what we basically are is a facilitator. We bring all the best people working with us to reach that goal, which is transforming our cores to the highest value material down the YAM. And that's what we do.
The way you slam at that desk, I love the confidence. So, Bernard, then we'll end with this. Safe to assume that, given the Gen 2 is coming online in the first couple of weeks of October, that this activity, you had to go through that quiet period, like you said, you had to wait for this. That thing's going to start to pick up in terms of activity at the company now. Publicly, I mean, you've always been active internally, but publicly, yeah.
As far as I can tell, I can't really do more than I'm doing right now. So we've been very, very, very busy. We're gonna have things to say. I've sort of chosen not to say things that basically don't mean anything. And I've looked at the press release of other companies. Is at one point, you might as well just say when we have something coherent. It's like, I can't wait for us to be able to say we've poured our first ingot with the Gen 2 machine and all those type of issues. But we did. That's it. I prefer to have way concrete or to overly give expectation about everything else, because we have a very quiet confidence that we know where we're going, we know how we're going to reach there, and we know how it's going to move there. That's all what I can say.
Well, I, for one, I got to tell you, Bernard, very excited to see the kind of numbers that Gen 2 is going to be able to, provide you with the ability to put out now.
I cannot wait to be in the position to publish them, but
Yeah, so
there's still a few steps for us to do before we do them. That's okay.
Congratulations on reaching this step here. Fantastic news. And we're looking forward to speaking to you next time. But thanks for taking the time out today. You put the press release out a couple of hours ago, and here you are today speaking with us so you can speak to your shareholders. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And remember, guys, go on Agoracom. Don't use other social medias to have discussion between yourselves, okay? If you have questions, ask them to me directly on Agoracom or to Patrick. Please don't write long-winded romance novel. Just simple, straight question, okay? And remember that you guys can write long question, but I am subject to regulatory constraint. This is not a divulgation, okay? So I will basically answer question within the constraint of the rules, but I think it's a much better form than bothering to other sites where you basically talk to people that think they know.
And that's the power of having a CEO verified discussion forum at the end of the day.
Yes.
You're talking to Bernard, you're talking to Patrick. So get to the Agoracom CEO verified discussion forum from HPQ, ask your questions, get your answers, and then talk amongst each other at the same time. Take the answers that are given to you by both Patrick and Bernard and discuss them amongst you. It's moderated, controlled, and it's constructive. Thanks for saying that, Bernard. And to everyone at home, you've been watching Bernard Tudillon. He's Chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ. Thanks for tuning in. Today was a great day. We'll see you next time.